Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the 10th inning with Nick Mattos.
Oh, put me in cold. I'm ready to play today. Put me in cold. I'm ready to play today. Look at me. I can be center field.
Welcome to the 10th inning. I'm Nick Mattos in the Lethal Weapon 2 studio here with my producer, Dave Perkins. And today I'm really excited about a new basketball league that's going to begin in January of 2018. The North American Premier Basketball League debuts in January of 2018. This is good for the NBA, and I believe it's good for many, many young basketball players. Not only is this good for the basketball players to continue to grow their skills, but it's also they're going to have a chance to learn to be professionals. The door remains open for hundreds to achieve their dream to play professional basketball. And I truly believe the first step in achieving your goal is to envision it first. Today we're going to reach out to the president and chief operating officer of the North American Premier Basketball League, Dave Magley. Dave, thanks for joining me today here in the Lethal Weapon 2 studio.
Thanks for having me, Nick. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I want to talk a little bit about you first, Dave, and get to know you. I think the listeners always enjoy to find out the background of a successful person. And why don't we start with talking about you as a young man? Why don't you tell us where you were born and raised, and a little bit about your family?
Well, I'm originally from South Bend, Indiana, which is a pretty big basketball state. I'm the youngest of four children, and all of my siblings were successful athletes and students. And I was fortunate enough to be the 1978 Indiana High School Mr. Basketball, which is a pretty big deal in a state like Indiana. And from there, I was able to get to go to the University of Kansas and play for the Jayhawks there for 4 years. And in my career, I got to play against Michael Jordan. His first game as a freshman was against us at Kansas, and Magic Johnson was at Michigan State when I played at Kansas, and I got to play against him when I was a freshman. So it was sandwiched by a couple of great players and a couple of great teams that both went on to win national championships that year. And then I was fortunate to be the 28th pick of the NBA draft and played in the NBA for a little bit for the Cleveland Cavaliers, played in the CBA for Bill Jackson, played in Spain and Belgium, and I've been married for 36 years to the love of my life, and she looks like the day we met, and I look like I ate that guy, so it's a bad deal for her, but she's incredible. And we've got four amazing kids that were all college athletes. I had an NCAA Division I tennis champion, and my daughter, Jennifer, that went to Florida. My second daughter, Jessica, is the third leading scorer and rebounder in the state of Florida history in high school and went on to play at Rhode Island and Western Kentucky. And oldest son played at Western Kentucky in Tulsa and went to the NCAA tournament a couple of times. And my youngest son played at Park University in Kansas City, and all graduated without much debt at all at the university.
Oh, Dave, that's great.
So,
that's great, Dave.
Got four grandbabies and a fifth on the way.
Very good. Congratulations. The only thing that you said there that I have in common with you is that I've been married to my wife for 38 years. I've got three children that are all raised
awesome.
and grown. And again, the same thing as you. The debt for the college was, we got it down pretty well now. We got it under control. But I would like to ask you a couple of questions about when you were a senior in high school and got the award of Mr. Basketball in the state of Indiana. That season, can you tell us a little bit about your stats? And I want to first let everybody know that you're 6'8", and you were 6'8", I'm sure, in high school. Did you grow any more after high school?
No, I actually was 6'8" my sophomore year in high school. I never got any bigger from there. So,
well, give us some stats. Give me some of your stats that season, Dave.
I think I was probably 23 or 4 points a game and 14 rebounds a game. And, they weren't – there was Kurt Clausen was a great shooter in Indiana that went to Purdue, scored more than I did that year. And I'm certain Wallace Bryant, who went to San Francisco and played in the NBA for the Dallas Mavericks, as well as as well as Landon Turner, who won a national championship at Indiana at IU, would have been a first-round pick if he hadn't been in a car accident. Both had better rebounding stats. What made my season special was I was able to deal with tragedy good. So, my mother dies on a Wednesday. We bury her on a Friday. And the night we buried my mom, I scored 40 points in the first half of the game.
Oh, my God.
So that was
Wow.
that was something that the Indiana writers like. And then I dislocated my shoulder in the Christmas tournament and never missed a game because we were out for a couple of weeks, and then they fitted me with a brace. And the day they fitted me with a brace that I'd never worn before, I scored 38 points. And then when our second leading scorer, who went to Oklahoma, flunked off the team with a week to go in the season, I averaged the rest of the season. So every time something bad happened, I was fortunate to do real well. And then we went down to the state semifinals and did pretty good. So, that's the kind of stuff the Indiana writers like. I don't know if I really was the best player in the state because there were so many great. Randy Whitman was a great player in our league. And Poncho Wright played at Louisville, was a great player. And John Eggwood went to San Francisco, was a great player. And Thad Gardner went to Michigan. And Ted Kitchell went to IU and won a national championship. And Jackie Moore was a great player at Nebraska. I mean, all these guys were on my all-star team. And any, if not all of them, could have been argued that they were better than I was.
Well, you're a humble man, and that's always good to give praise to others around you, and that's why you're a great leader, Dave. I know that for sure. What I've got to learn about you, you're just a good leader, and I think your resume for starting this league, we're going to talk about that in a moment, but there's something else that you said, and I wanted to run by. It was when you were at Kansas, you played against Magic Johnson, and obviously you're 6'8". Did you guard Magic Johnson? He was about, I think, 6'8" too, if I recall. Or did you match up against him?
He's actually 6'9". You know what? I was a freshman. He was a sophomore. And the game, we had a really good point guard named Darnell Valentine. And it was really about Darnell and Irvin. I was just I came off the bench, and I'm sure I guarded him a couple times on the court. And, I was surprised how big and strong he was. I didn't realize he was even bigger than me. I'd never met a guard my size that was bigger than I was. And he was. They were very good. They beat us really good that year. And then 4 years later, when I got to play against Michael Jordan, he was a freshman and I was a senior, and I had a really good game against them. And I had 24 and he had 12. But the reality is that I'm wearing his clothes. He's not wearing mine. So he's not wearing Ground Magley, but I'm wearing Air Jordan.
Well, but not yet. Okay, once this North American Premier Basketball League blows up, okay, he may come to you and want to get some garb. Okay, so there's.
I'll tell you what. If he's listening, Michael, we could talk a deal to put Jordan brand on all of our clothes because he makes I tell you, Nike and the stuff they make and the Jordan brand are wonderful products.
Yes, they are.
And he's done a great job with his business side of his life.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. Michael Jordan was I'm 62 years old. I graduated a few years before you, but Michael Jordan was absolutely just a god when we were playing, and just loved how he would elevate off the court, and he could do everything on the basketball court. And, I had the privilege of doing that Global Basketball Summer League in Las Vegas, and I was amazed at some of the great athletes I saw there, and I just was so impressed when I heard that you were going to start a league here in the United States, because I don't know if people are aware of this, but there are so many professional leagues in Europe. It's just unbelievable. The 9 interconnected teams in Italy, 26 in Spain, 7 in France, nearly 100 throughout Europe. And in the United States, we only have 2 professional basketball leagues, the NBA and its minor league, the G League, which is going to be the Gatorade League coming up this year. And I really think there's a great golden opportunity for the North American Premier Basketball League to be very successful. And from what I witnessed when I was at the Global Basketball Summer League, just that one tournament, I would say there was probably, I saw 16 teams, probably 8 to 10 players there, 150, 140 players. Most every one of them was very talented, Dave. And I know you've seen this too, because you wouldn't be thinking about starting a league if you didn't believe there was a plethora of talented basketball players throughout the world. And why don't you tell us how you first envisioned? You had mentioned before, and I want to let the listeners know this, after you played basketball for the Cleveland Cavaliers, you played several years with the CBA, the Continental Basketball Association. Then you coached at different levels. The highest level there was with the Brampton A's. That was a national basketball team in the League of Canada there. And then 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, you were named the commissioner of the NBL. And after the 2 years, you decided you were going to start your own league. I would like to know what inspired you and what made you think, you know what, I'm going to go to the U.S. and start my own league.
Well, Nick, I mean, you know, in there you said a lot of things. One of the things is that I have seen a lot of talent. The Global Basketball Summer League that Daryl Reshaw does is really well done in Las Vegas, and you see a lot of talent there. And if you say there's 120, 130 guys, there's probably 30 or 40 guys every year that were good enough for our league in the NBL Canada. And the NBL Canada is a wonderful league. That's an 11-team league in Eastern Canada that plays in great venues with good owners and amazing fans and live streaming and uniforms that match and things that are done well that reminded me a lot of when I played in CBA prior to the NBA forming the D League. And what happened is when the NBA formed the D League, they effectively killed the CBA. Well, they took several of the cities, but they didn't take all of them, and the remnants just kind of gradually died. So wonderful markets like Yakima, Washington, and La Crosse, Wisconsin, like Albany, New York, and Rockford, Illinois, and the Quad Cities, and all these places, Boise, Idaho, that used to be great CBA markets, are just sitting there with nothing. And so there's actual markets that are dying for this level of basketball that supported it with good numbers before, and then the D League just in the last few years when the NBA started their new collective bargaining agreement. There's so much money that those teams make. They don't need to worry about making money on the D League and in rural flyover markets like Bakersfield, California. They'd be better to take those teams to Phoenix or Tempe and play them close to Phoenix, or move from Erie, Pennsylvania, down to Lakeland, Florida, to be closer to Orlando, or move from Miami. The Miami Heat's team plays in Sioux Falls. I can't see that lasting too much longer. And Reno just is going to lose their franchise this year to Stockton, California, so it can be closer to Sacramento. So all these wonderful D League towns are becoming open as well. And then you take a step back and you go, what about the original NBA and ABA markets? Are any of those open? Well, the Sacramento Kings came from Kansas City, Omaha, before they came from Cincinnati, before they came from Rochester, New York. Those are 4 NBA markets that will never get an NBA team again. Seattle, Washington may get an NBA team one day, but that's probably quite a ways away because they got to build a venue and they got to get approved. Vancouver, Canada could have been a great NBA market, but they didn't get a chance. And so you start looking at all those markets that are empty, and then when you look at Western Canada where the NBL isn't, those towns are really far apart. So from Winnipeg to Vancouver is almost a 24-hour drive, maybe more. From Calgary and Edmonton to Vancouver is 8 to 12 hours. But from Calgary and Edmonton to Spokane, Washington is 4 hours. From Winnipeg to Fargo, North Dakota is 2 hours. So from Vancouver to Seattle is two and a half hours. So you start realizing you could do a North American league and tie these markets together, and tie the U.S. and Canada, and I believe eventually Mexico. I mean, I believe that we can create a professional league in all of the markets that the NBA won't be in, and still give them a chance to be professional basketball. Now, it's interesting. An article was written in the Spokane Business Journal today. And great, he did a nice job, except for the headline said the NAPB is looking to bring semi-pro basketball to Spokane. Well, I think that's a misnomer. I think the term minor, I think the term semi-pro does professional basketball a disservice because these guys are all paid athletes, just like they would be in Europe. So the level A in Germany, the top level is called the BBL. Pro A Germany, Pro A, Pro B, Pro C, Pro D. Pro A is a really good level. Nobody says Pro A is minor league. It's just the second division of Germany. The second division of Italy is the second division of Italy. They're not minor or semi. They're just the second division. And that's what we're looking at is can we build a legitimate professional league over the next 5 years that can be larger in geographic footprint and number of teams than the NBA or the G League. And we could be an option that really is the second option because the NBA G League is really the NBA light. They're a JV unit of the varsity. You can practice in the morning with the varsity and go play at night with the JV because they're in the same venues a lot of time. Oklahoma City, Tulsa was too far away, so they moved it to Oklahoma City. Well, heck, you can practice with the Oklahoma City Thunder in the morning and play with the G League affiliate that night. Well, that's perfect to develop the kids. It doesn't spread the brand of basketball to other markets that would love to have it. So that's kind of what we get a chance to do.
Yeah, that's very good, Dave. I think that's fantastic. And who helped you? Do you have a partner or somebody that went along with you on this and said, you know, Dave, let's do this? Can you tell us a little bit about your partners?
I do. Oh, I absolutely do. Dr. Seth Hrywanek, who I don't say his name very well because of the way it's spelled, Hrywanak, which is not a typical spelling for me. But he started a league in the U.S. called the PBL, and he ran it for 11 years. He owns a team in our league called the Rochester Razor Sharks. And Dr. Sev has personally funded that league for 11 years to the tune of about $12 million of his own money. Yet it's not built the way ours is designed. Doesn't have the standards that we require. See, what makes our league professional isn't just the fact that we pay our guys. It's professional because our owners are professionals. The owners, you have to have a net worth of $2.5 million to buy a team. You've got to put out a couple $100,000 to buy a team, and that number's going up in January 1 to $400,000, and eventually it'll be $1 million because, again, if a G League franchise is worth $8 million, we believe we should be worth $1 million within 5 years. So we're going up every year to get there, and which helps everybody, create a valuation in their investment. But so you've got to have some money. You've got to put some money down, and you've got to pay your players. We've got to be in league-approved venues. They're going to sit a minimum of 2,000 to 4,000, 5,000 seats. Now, if a Bakersfield market wanted to come in, we would be more than happy to let them in because they have a different model where they can make money in 800 seats. But that's very unique. But we'll have a league-wide uniform deal that everybody will wear the same uniform brand, and it will look right. We've hired Ronnie Nund, who's a former NBA longtime official and 10-year head of the NBA refs, to be the head of our referees. And we think we're just going to deliver a brand of basketball. It'll be live streamed, pay-per-view. It'll be on cable television, and it'll be something that we think is really, really unique, yet fit a need. Because, the NBA is getting younger. It's getting younger and younger and younger. Now, we could be an option for some of those young kids, but if not, when you go from an average kid being drafted at 19 this year to the average kid being drafted at 17 or 18 in the years to come, that means that if you haven't made it by 23, 24, you're going to start to be too old. Well, where do all those wonderfully young men still go to play ball? When they're 23 and 24, they're name recognized. They've played Division I. They've been on our NCAA TVs for their whole college years, and all of a sudden they've got no options. So, people in Kansas City are going to love to come watch, Sharon Collins play, or they're going to love to come watch Travis Relaford or Kevin Young, all guys that played for us in the NBL Canada that would love to play in a league like this.
So there are going to be a wide variety of ages on these teams. You had just mentioned there could be some young guys as young as 17 or 18 just getting out of high school, and you're going to take out talented players that may have played some years in the NBA or overseas. If they have the talent and the desire to continue to play pro basketball and they're good players, they're going to be accepted on the North American Premier Basketball League teams. Is that correct?
Well, absolutely, because at the end of the day, we all want to win.
Yeah.
And you can say what you want to, but no one's winning a championship in professional basketball with 18, 19-year-old kids. you could develop a kid. Ricky Rubio went pro at 14 in Spain, and he's done quite well. He's been in the NBA a few years now, and he's had a really nice career. But his team's not winning a championship because of Ricky Rubio. He's winning a championship because they've got some really nice veterans on that team.
Absolutely.
And that's what happens. I mean, let's be honest. These veterans of all the great guys at Golden State and LeBron and his guys in Cleveland are awfully fun to watch. They're not winning with the rookies being the stars.
Yeah, I like that. And
So our team's
having a
gonna
good
win.
mixture. It's going to be a good. Go ahead.
They're going to have to have a good mixture, exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's right. I was just going to say they have to have a good mixture.
Yeah, I agree, and that's what makes a quality team. You have veteran players that are good leaders, and I want to talk about that. Just transitions me right into you as a leader, and one of the qualities that I believe is important in a leader is somebody that has learned to follow. And obviously, you've done everything in basketball. You've been a great player. You were a great coach. You were a commissioner. You're going to be able to see all sides of everything that happens. And I really think that's important. If you haven't started from the bottom up, being a player, working your way up and gone through everything, then you're not going to see things as clearly as somebody as yourself. That's an experienced person that's been through everything. And I think that's going to be a really big advantage for the North American Premier Basketball League to have a leader as yourself, Dave. And I love this. I love your motto, where the spirit of the game lives on. I just think that's just perfect. I mean, who gave you that? Where'd you come up with that? Because I really think that's what this is about, the spirit of basketball.
Well, I have to tell you, I was in Albany, New York about a month ago, and that's actually where I am tonight. And I was in the Armory, and the Armory is a 120-year-old building. And you walk into this old armory built to house tanks and weapons and train the Army back in the day, has been converted into this wonderful old gym. It smells like basketball. It feels like basketball. It's like being in the Hoosiers gym. It's just a really cool place. And there's banners that are hanging from the walls, and you recognize that those banners were coached by incredible coaches, Phil Jackson and George Karl and Bill Musselman, and incredible players like Michael Ray Richardson and Derek Rowlands and Rick Carlisle, and I mean all these guys, Scotty Brooks. These guys all played in that old armory, and in that gym with me at that day is a guy named Charlie Rosen, and Charlie is an incredible man that is Phil Jackson's best friend, and he sat on our bench when Phil Jackson coached us in the CBA as our assistant coach, and he and Phil are both 6'8", 6'9", and Charlie is just a long-time author. And we came back to the hotel rooms, and he went to his room. We came to mine. I said, we need to think of a logo. And we were thinking, bring professional basketball coast to coast and things like that. And Charlie said, what we should do where the spirit of the game lives on. And what that means to us is that these kids are playing for the love of the game. These venues, these fans, these flyover markets that maybe the NBA's looked past, or these players that are never going to get that shot, they're going to give their all for the city of Albany. They're going to give their all for Seattle and Las Vegas and Spokane and Yakima and Vancouver and Kansas City and Raleigh, North Carolina. They're going to give their all for Rochester, New York. They're going to play to their very best that they possibly can, because they're playing for their pride, because they're not playing for money. They're playing for their opportunity to, maybe they can get some more money someplace else, but more than that, they're playing for that community, so the community's falling in love. I was with Derek Rowlands today, who's the all-time leading scorer of the Albany Patroons, and when people recognize him out in public, they tear up, because that was a place my father used to take me when I was a kid, and now those kids are 35 years later, they're now 50, or they're now 40, and they're 45, and they're 50, and they're going, my father since died, and that was one of my favorite times I share with my father. And it's that kind of experience that you realize you're bringing to these communities. And it's something that, beyond that, we have an opportunity, Nick, to touch young lives in schools, because we really going to force our kids into the school systems, and we're going to deliver whatever message they want us to about bullying or drugs or or staying in school or the dangers of running with the wrong kind of kids. Whatever message they want us to have, we can deliver that. And when we have a 6'9" kid that looks different than anybody else in their school, walking through, they go, wonder who that guy is. He must be from the Albany Patroons or the Rochester Razor Shark or whatever the names of each team is going to be. We have a chance to impact lives. And quite frankly, the NBA, pro baseball, pro football, they just can't, because those guys make so much money and they spend so much time training and everything else they do. They can't hardly go to see every kid in every school in their community.
Dave, that's what I'm talking about right there. Just what you just said. I'm on the edge of my seat right now. I tell you, I'm not kidding you. David said, my producers here said, sit back and relax. But I am on the edge of my seat right now. I am just gripped with everything you're saying. I'm so interested in. And I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tease our audience a little bit. I'm going to, we're going to shut this off here pretty quick, because I want our next podcast, I want to continue talking about more stuff in this, the cities, the coaches. I think before we leave this podcast, though, I really want to put out where the players can get information on tryouts, Dave. I know that the tryouts are going to be coming up here sometime in August, and if there's any way that we can get a word out so that the players that are interested in competing and trying out for the league could get some information on where the combines might be.
Perfect, Nick. I appreciate it. So we're going to do 15 combines all over North America so that guys don't have to fly into one spot one time a year and be seen with 500 kids. They can go to 40, 50-person tryout events and be rated and ranked and have a legitimate shot and hopefully not spend too much money getting there and coming back. You can find out more about where those are at napbasketball.com. So napbasketball.com, and that will get them all the information they need to know to sign up. And these are legitimate opportunities. If we have 8 teams, that's 96 jobs. If there's 12 teams, that's 144 jobs. If there's more than that, you could do the math. There's a lot of job opportunities for young men to earn this year.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you know what? We're going to get more into on our next podcast, the cities, some of the coaches. I know that there's some big name coaches that you've got, and like I say, this is what we call a teaser a little bit. We're going to tease our listeners, Dave, that make sure that they're going to want to tune back in on our next series of podcasts that we're going to continue to highlight the progress and the growth of this North American Premier Basketball League. Okay, I'm excited about it, and I know there's a lot of people. Let me ask you one other question. What if I'm an agent, or if I'm a player and I've got some tape that I could send to somebody at the North American Premier Basketball League? Is there a website or a email address that a player could, if he can't get to a combine? Go ahead.
They would be better to wait until October when all the teams are announced.
Okay.
And go directly to each team.
Okay.
Because if they send it all to the league, then we're going to be doing nothing but inventorying tape and sending it out. And we would prefer to just wait till we make an announcement. Like Seattle's been announced and Rochester's been announced. You can start sending them there now. We try to announce a team every couple of weeks, so there'll be more teams announced in the relatively near future. So you'll know who we all are by the time October rolls around.
Well, we're gonna start talking a little bit each week. We're gonna give them more information, okay? Information that's up and strong. Just like you mentioned, those 2 sites that we know that there's going to be teams in, and I know there's a couple of others. But this is, like I say, when we're doing a good talk show, we got to keep people wanting to come back, Dave. Okay, and I'm telling you,
Nick, I appreciate your time and I appreciate your passion for this, because
listen, it's likewise, Dave. Likewise, I feel yours. I just can't tell you how proud of you I am. I just think this has been something that's been needed to be in the United States for a long time. And basketball is such a fun game. We got to watch the NBA Finals there, and my Golden State Warriors defeated. I guess we could call them your Cleveland Cavaliers, right? You played for them before, but just a great series there. I mean, I just enjoyed it, and I think those 2 teams could meet up again for the next coming years. But I don't see anybody elevating, possibly maybe the Houston Rockets and a couple of teams that might be able to. But I just love basketball, and I was just so impressed with the quality of play I saw at the Global Basketball Summer League. And when I found out about your league, I said, boy, I got to reach out to Dave, and not only do I want to help promote the league, but I'd love to be part of this league in any way which I could be. So, all right, Dave, listen, I want you to know that congratulations. I want you to congratulate you for everything you've already achieved in your life and for what you're going to achieve in the future, because I believe there's some big plans for the North American Premier Basketball League where the spirit of the game lives on. Dave Magley, he'll be back next week or the week after. We got to see what Dave's schedule is. He's a busy man. But thank you so much for joining me here today on the 10th inning with Nick Mattos.